Welcome, everyone. I'm Mike Bershazadeh.
And I'm Ashley Ward.
And you're listening to the What Matters podcast, and our mission
to spotlight top RIAs, wealth managers, and investment professionals who are redefining wealth management.
Join us as we dive into their journey, strategies, and insights.
Whether you're an investor or an inspiring pro, this is for you.
Get ready for impactful conversations on the What Matters podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the What Matters podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bershazadeh.
And I'm Ashley Ward.
And today we're honored to have John Kailunas, correct?
Great job, Mike.
Oh, well, I've had to practice with my own last name. The second joining us, CEO and founder of Regal Holdings based in Kentwood, Michigan. John's entrepreneurial spirit propelled him for the last 2 decades as he and his team built Regal Holdings and its subsidiaries, Regal Investment Advisors, Lion Share, and Regulus Financial Group. Regal Financial Group and now Catalyst for Growth are his organizations. Welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
The Regal team has been humbled to win numerous awards from E&Y Entrepreneurial Finalist, top RAs in the country, best places to work, and coolest places to work, just to name a few. Well, thanks for joining us today, John. It's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, we're excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, let's kick it off by exploring your journey as an entrepreneur in the financial industry. Can you tell us and our listeners a little bit about your background story and the story behind founding Regal Holdings? You know, how did Regal come into existence and what was the vision behind driving this?
It was almost, it happened by accident. We were working, my partner and I who founded Larry Taunt, he's since we bought him out and he's retired, but he was my general agent at John Hancock. I started out of college. And we took over one of the worst offices you could possibly get as our first line management. We worked for another company, and Hancock brought us over. We were ranked 256, I think, out of 256 for investments in the country. So my wife thought I was a little bit nuts taking this opportunity. It's like, why would you go to some place with the wallpapers peeling off the wall and there's no production? And I looked at it as a great opportunity. So in 3 years, when the Graham-Bailey-Leach Act, this would have gone back in the late 90s, the Graham-Bailey-Leach Act changed and allowed brokers to come into the bank environment. So we went to the community banks in Indiana, in Michigan, and Ohio. We secured Indiana and Michigan and got the community bank endorsements and then the savings and loans endorsements and put Hancock brokers in all these small community banks. So our philosophy was to go hire the prom queen or the captain of the football team of every small town and put them and train them and develop them and put them in these small community banks. And we quickly, within 3 years, were number one in the Hancock distribution for mutual funds and annuities. Pretty amazing coming out of Kentwood, Michigan, which is a suburb of Grand Rapids. So we did such a good job that we had a great meeting with Hancock. They flew out and let us know that in part of our contract, it said that they own that business. And in January of 2000, they came in and they took that business to create their national platform for Hancock. Great news for Hancock, bad news for John and Larry because we didn't get paid on it. So
if I can interject real quick, so essentially you guys went and introduced this idea. You're putting advisors or wealth managers inside these small community banks, because they usually have their own person, but
at that time it was blue ocean strategy, right? No one had.
Oh, gotcha.
So we literally were introducing it and selling it to the banks, and then getting a local kid, a local hero, and training them up, and putting them through the Hancock system, but putting them in that community bank.
Wow. So how many total did you have? How many total advisors did you have in the different community banks and savings and loans?
We had 27 banks, and so several of the banks, one that's no longer because of mergers and acquisitions. CFS, it was a $2 billion bank back in the late 90s, and it was the largest savings and loan in the state of Michigan. And we had 16 advisors in their 22 branches. So
wow.
This is rural. I mean, their clients are farmers, right? Michigan's a very agricultural state when you get out of Detroit, and those small towns really bred great people, great clients. It was a new territory, and we did a really good job. So after Hancock, told us they were making a national account, and we weren't going to get remunerated, we left in January of 2000, and we took 17 of the 21 banks with us, and that's how we started Regal.
That's
So
amazing.
I moved it Mike. I moved my office right across the hall from our old Hancock space, and went to war. And we kept the clients, most of them, and it was a catalyst of how we grew the firm.
Wow.
I absolutely love that. So essentially, did they have any handcuffs on you guys in regards to taking clients over with them?
Yeah, there were some issues. We got a slew of nasty grams from corporate, from Hancock. The contracts were completely different than they are now. We did have mobility of clients and brokers, and they've since changed that. But at that time, we could move over pretty effortlessly.
And so, are you guys still aggregate business from the banks?
No, and surprisingly not. I wish we would. But if you remember the time in history, and then late 2000 or early 2000s, you started getting a lot of these bank mergers. So all of a sudden, we would have a small bank like Sydney Bank and Trust in Ohio. They get bought by somebody, and all of a sudden, the broker's like, "I want to stay with you, John, but Comerica bought us, or Bank of America bought us," and I'm like, "You've got to go with them." I mean, that's your whole essence, your whole lifestyle, your prospecting, everything is built on this bank branch. You can't go independent at this time. So we changed our business model at that time, and we grew. So we've grown substantially since then.
So what was it? Was it the savings and loans crisis that kind of made the consolidation happen, that triggered that?
No, well, I guess it could be. I think it was just basic bank mergers. These bigger banks realized the power these rural small community banks had, and the way they had trusted clientele, and that they could bring more services and have deeper penetration in the communities that they hadn't had before. So they snatched up a lot of these, and a lot of good people, ended up being in corporate America, coming from small rural towns.
So tell me, or tell us and the listeners about the new phase of the growth there, right? So you guys aggregated your business through these local banks, and then that that had an ending to it. Where did you shift? How did you guys build to where you're at today?
We realized that we had a core strength in training and development, and we still do. It's still the cornerstone of who we are as a firm. We have a series called IQL, which is Increase Your Quality of Life. So, you and I are in different stages of lives. Ashley is in a different stage of life, and maybe building, maybe it's selling a practice, maybe it's building client acquisition, maybe it's putting in processes. Everyone's on a different journey, and also everyone has a different thing that they want out of life. My kids are grown now. They've got professional degrees, postgraduate degrees, and they're on their own. They're doing exceptionally well. I don't have to worry about daycare. My quality of life has changed over the years, right? So what we've done is developed a training and development program for our advisors that about 80% of it's standardized and basic things you need to do, like developing a process, having things, how you prospect, how you do all that. Those are pretty much standardized, but the last 20% is what we customize. So everyone gets something that's very unique to them based on their skill sets, and we build around their strengths, and try to outsource their weaknesses.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So to add to that, tell us a little bit more about Regal. You guys have grown, and this is often wrong, so don't quote me on it, to over 2 billion AUM.
We're and it's sort of funny. I look back, and I wrote a book in 2014 called Choices and Chances. It's sort of like a fireside chat. It's really what we're doing today is sort of talking about our philosophy and how we want to build our business. And I look back at it was outdated, because I think when I wrote it, we were like 450 million in assets. And now we're at over 2.6 on the RIA. The broker dealer has $1 billion. We're just starting a distribution company called Lionshare to do sub-advisory agreements. We realize that even though we got a really cool logo and we like it, that some people want to fly their own flag. So we can help them with our practice management through Catalyst for Growth, which is the new company, and then Lionshare, which is the SMA distribution. And we've been very fortunate to grab some great talent in the industry and bring them on board to help us with those endeavors.
So you guys are essentially at around 3.6 billion now?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
And so you're opening up the new channel, which is it more like I hate to use this slang term, but like a TAMP, like they're going to be using your back end system
Yeah,
and running
it's
independently?
more of a wholesale operation in which they're SMAs, and
Mhm.
what's happening is that we attach through them from one of our custodians, and through that we manage the money, but we also help them develop their practices. You know, advisors get to plateaus. I've done it myself. I'm sure you two have experienced that in your professional careers. You get to a point and you need help. You need to change the way you look at the world. You need new ideas. You need something to move forward and ahead. And we found that we find a lot of advisors like that are good quality people that, you know, they're by themselves. And how do you get scale? How do you go about investing in your business? How do you expand? You know, you're making a good living, but you're working 80, 90 hours a week and you're running around. You're the chief bottle washer, the money manager, the strategist. So what we try to do is complement them, work on their strengths, enhance those, but take away some of the weaknesses that they have. I had to do it in Regal. We got to a point where we hit a plateau, and about 12 years ago, I had to bring on a true operations person, and he's a great guy, Bill Best, and we brought him on. I couldn't afford him originally, so we put him on a consulting contract for 2 years, and then he's been on full time, and he's in Chicago. But he went through and recreated all of our systems so we could scale. And most advisors need that.
Yeah.
That assistance.
And so in total, now have you guys grown the business mostly organically, or have there been some inorganic acquisitions as well?
We really haven't focused on inorganic acquisitions. We've done it really by recruiting and then by organic development of our advisors. We're great at taking a 2-star recruit. We use that in our, the old athletic 1 to 5-star recruit. We can take a 2-star or 3-star recruit and make them a 3 or 4. We've even taken some, 2s and made them 5s. We've got some really great brokers on our top end of our list, and we've got a lot of people that are just talented, hardworking, good people that are working towards their goal to increase, again, that IQL, to increase their quality of life.
And so how many total advisors and teammates do you have at the organization now?
I will estimate probably 200, but that's including staff, the advisor staff. Yeah, so it's become a fairly large organization, just by elbow grease and trying to outwork the other guy and trying to add value to our clients at every turn, trying to take care of people.
And how many total advisors do you have out of the 200?
Oh, probably 120. So that CFP, that's a one person shop with an assistant. Those are people that we can make them shine like a new penny.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, John, with your background as a first generation immigrant, and your early career experiences, how did those shape your entrepreneurial drive and ambition?
I think initially I was motivated by fear. I didn't want to go back. I knew there was more out there, and I didn't want to embarrass anybody or let anybody down. So I just worked really hard and developed my philosophies over time of what I believed in and what I wanted to be, and just worked for that. Kept what I wanted to be just constantly in front of me, and remind myself every single day that every single action you do it has a good or bad influence on your overall, where you're going to end up in life, and to try to keep I've made lots of mistakes, but you keep going forward. You don't let yesterday bother you. You can't change it. So you just move forward, and you just persevere, and grit, determination, perseverance, tenacity. Some people say pain in the ass, but that's what I do to get there.
So talk to me about the most challenging time period that you faced in your career, outside of John Hancock sidelining you guys after you built the organization. But markets are up 70% of the time, down 30% of the time, give or take. We've seen some unprecedented events, with the tech boom and 2009. Then again, we had COVID, and we've had some pretty volatile times in the market. What was your guys' most challenging time, and how did you navigate out of it?
I think our most challenging time was one of the broker dealers that we aligned with before we started our own was AIG. And when AIG blew it out, we were one of their top offices, before they started acquiring all these brokered or all these other offices. We were the number one advisors at AIG Advisors, and to carry that flag when it was the most hated flag in the country was really tough and it was challenging. I think communication and being authentic and being sincere about the situation and delivering message, even though it was hard at times to people, really helped us sort of jump that gap of people being unsure. And we didn't lose many, but we had a lot of communication from, 7 o'clock in the morning till 9, 10 o'clock at night, talking to customers, talking to advisors, talking to our staff. That was very challenging.
Was that like 2009 or 2008?
Yeah, it would have been 2000, and the crash 2008 going into 2009, and then we ended up leaving and incubating our broker dealer at that time.
Did AIG at the very least invite you guys to that $1 million party that they had at the Ritz Carlton?
You know what's hilarious?
Laguna Beach.
I was there, and we had to pay for that trip. They kept saying on NBC News, and my wife is watching NBC News, and she goes, "I see you, honey," and I'm like, "That's not a good thing." I'm walking in the background as they're talking about the most hated company, and they're here on this lavish trip, and I'm like, "This thing cost me $2,500." I wanted to grab the mic and say, "No, this is wrong. It's wrong.
Goodness.
I had to pay," but no one really cared. But yeah, in that video, it's sort of funny. I just walking like a deer through the woods behind when they're saying we're horrible people.
It's hilarious.
So wasn't a good look.
I thought it came out. I thought the $1 million party came out of the bailout money they utilized it for. But
well, those things are booked so many years in advance. You know how the industry works. They'll book a resort. They'll do it. That was already booked and already paid for. They probably would have lost more money backing out of it, but we had to pay for that. That was a co-op deal. So I'm still a little tender about that. I want my $2,500 back from the American people. Somehow.
Yeah, the funny part is the way
I might as well get the cash, right?
Right. The way the media made it look like that it was some big bailout party that you guys were just having because you got bailed out and you guys thought you were going out of business. And I was like,
yeah, we had a pagan bonfire and we were dancing around America's despair. It's just sort of ridiculous, but yeah, it's like, oh wow, look at everyone's the boat sinking. Let's be happy. Let's dance. That's not what was happening. There was a lot of white knuckles and a lot of people that were really nervous, and a lot of people lost their jobs at AIG, and a lot of good people. That was all started by some clowns in the UK that were trading derivatives. It had nothing to do with the wealth advisors in America here. We were blindsided just like the general consumer.
Right. John, so let me ask you this. Building a successful enterprise requires more than just hard work. What are some of the best, we'll say secrets or not secrets, insights or strategies to sustaining a thriving business, especially considering your focus on integration, innovation?
Yeah, I think what I do is I put, as a CEO, I put all my decisions through 4 filters. And these are filters that I've developed, and they probably can be honed by one of your listeners who's a lot smarter than me. But I look at this way, and I look to see if we're going to do a business, if we have alignment. Are we both looking to do the same type of thing? That's the first filter I use. Then I look at it, is it profitable? There's been deals, Ashley, that I've out-negotiated somebody on, and they've out-negotiated me, and those deals never last. So it's got to be profitable for both parties. It's got to be ethical, right? And I'm not putting these in any order. I'd probably put ethics number 1, but I just talking off the top of my head. They've got to be ethical, right? There's a lot of ways to make money and take shortcuts. And every time you take a shortcut in the business, it hurts your overall profitability, and you just need to avoid it. I know a lot of our rules and regs are overstated in this industry, and they manage us to the lowest common denominator, but it does keep a lot of people, a lot of trouble, and the intent is to protect the consumer. So everything's got to be ethical. And the last is, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older, it's got to be fun. I don't want to work with people I don't like. I don't want to work with people that are headaches. And, if I see Mike or you call Ashley, I want to pick up the phone and, talk about, personal things and have relationships. I don't want to hear, oh, it's Mike again. What's he going to want this
Mhm.
time? I just cut that out of my life. So those 4 filters: alignment, ethical, profitable, and fun, are sort of how I, look at every business relationship I'm going into and seeing if it's a fit for me.
I like the fun
And
part, and that's probably why you've been named one of the coolest places to work, which I love that.
Well, that's not me. I'm not cool. It's my staff that's cool. I'm the driver. I'm the guy cracking the whip. My staff is. I've got great people around me. I've been blessed. Heather Chrisman, Bill Best, Don Carlson, Brian Yarch. They're just good people. So there's a couple of them in there are cool. Not all of them. I don't want to get them a big head, but there's a couple in there that are cool.
Very humble of you. So, with the track record of winning numerous recognitions and awards, what strategies have you employed that you think differentiate Regal Holdings in a competitive market to retain clients? And there's plenty of other firms
I
out
think,
there.
yeah, I think number one is I'm an advisor. I still have clients, right? And as a CEO, that sets me apart from everybody else. I still, with Brian Yarch and Mark Reuters, we manage about $166 million of client money. So I test our systems. I look at marketing. I'm hands-on on all of that, and probably too much at times. But I take a look at everything, and I won't bring it out to the field. I won't bring it out to my advisors unless I've tried it or done it. And so that's where a lot of the failure comes in, right? I fail probably more than most advisors because I'm trying a lot of different things. Um, and I think the other thing that sets us apart is our authenticity. And when I say we're authentic, it's who we are as people. Um, you get what you see with us. There's no smoke and mirrors. There's no agenda, or hidden agenda. I think authenticity, when you speak with integrity, and energy, and you're trying to truly help somebody, I think that sets you apart. I mean, I look at a lot of
Mhm.
CEOs, I look at a lot of organizations that say we have the advisor's best interest, and yet they do everything they possibly can to make the advisor's job more difficult, and they don't pick up the phone. I mean, I talk to advisors when they're mad. I talk to them when they're happy. I explain to them why we have to put in these new systems because of the new regulation. Cybersecurity is a big thing right now. We've got to do all of this stuff to protect the firm, and it slows business operations down, right? When you have got to use double authentication. I can barely say that word, but when you have to do that, it slows things down. And advisors are like, I want to go faster. I want to go faster, but we have to protect the client. We have to protect the advisor. So when you have those authentic conversations with people why you're doing it, pretty much 95% of the people on earth are reasonable if you explain the why. So it's being authentic and communicating a lot, over communicating. I think that people understand, and then I get, I think the issue's done, and then all of a sudden I get 2 questions on it 24 hours later. So I didn't do a good enough job as a communicator. So, that authenticity, that term, really wraps in a lot of things. And I think that's a degree of separation for us, from our competitors, and from a lot of businesses, not only in the financial services industry.
I was saying, John, can you provide us with, insights into the future trajectory of Regal Holdings? Where do you see the company positioned in 5 years? And, you said that you have kids that are adults now, or any of them on the G2 horizon, or, has there
I
been
wish
others there?
Mike, I actually wish they were. My daughter's exceptional. She went in the medical field. She's a DNP and is a primary care, physician. She works in the Tampa General. My son is he's just finishing up with his master's in strategic leadership from Michigan State, and he's going to get his doctorate in that. He's going to be involved in the C4G, the Catalyst for Growth.org, which is our professional coaching and development site. He's seen all the trials and tribulations of this industry, and he's like, Dad, that's a tough gig, and it's getting tougher with regulations and compressing margins. He's a smart kid. So 5 years from now, we'll be plugging along on line share a distribution firm. We are getting new sub-advisory agreements with RIAs every single month, and working with their advisors, their downline, helping them get a better client experience, and then using our portfolios, which we have about 60, integrating them into their practices and using, outsourcing the money management to us as a way we get remunerated. So we've got some talented people. Kevin Burwell, who is the national wholesaler for Pacific Life, is retired and he's joined us. He had an early retirement. So I coax Kevin out from fishing every day to help us on the distribution. And he's a world-class talent. So excited to have him, and then Don Carlson as well, and Lee Cole will be really pushing that lion's share initiative across the United States.
And so, let me ask you this, and switching gears a little bit here. Considering, you guys have a very forward-thinking approach, and, you have your expertise in financial services, what are your predictions for the future of financial planning and wealth management, especially, in light of advances, of technology, innovation, artificial intelligence and whatnot?
Yeah, I know everyone talks about that and how exciting that is. We use all those tools. I think they're just that, as tools, and they can make our jobs easier. They can also make our jobs a lot more difficult, right? And if they're not used properly and they're not managed. A good example is look at all the firms that are getting fined for texting, right? Texting's been around a long time, but they didn't put in the proper procedures. So now a simple thing is getting a lot of good firms with some pretty lofty fines. So I think as an industry, we have to be careful of how we implement things. But to the core of your question, how I see it is that clients need help. I mean, you can have massively successful people that have sold a business or have been a professional and amassed a lot of money, and they don't know how to spend their money properly in the sense of what's the most efficient way. I think financial planning, as margins continue to go down and client expectations go up, it's a tough business to be in. That the services that we garner, like financial planning, income, distribution of income, will be very, very desired and be a great place to be in the marketplace.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there any investments or sectors that you guys are excited about right now?
Yeah, we've got a couple strategies on our Lion Share platform. One is Dividend Plus, and it's really cool strategy. It just pumps income for clients. So it's one of the things that we offer in our SMA platform to outside RIAs. But it's an aristocratic stock. So you know that they've given a dividend consistently over 25 years. So there are a lot of consumer staples in there. But we take those stocks and put covered calls on them, and it just spits out income, which is really a great story for clients. It's too difficult for the client to do themselves, and it's troublesome at times for the advisor. So they can outsource that to us, and we spit out income like a champ for these clients. And the strategy is over 10 years old, so it's proven. It's got a great track record, and we use it quite often for people that want income. That's one of our key initial points that people love to use Lion Share and Regal.
So, given your interest in, your alternative investments there, or I'll call it with that and the covered calls, particularly with your approach in building distribution platforms, what specific types of, alternative investments, outside of maybe what you guys are doing excites you? You guys, doing any real estate right now, commercial or residential?
We have several strategies that use non-correlated assets. We use Case for a lot of our stuff, and simply for the fact that Case can do the due diligence. Mercer does the due diligence for Case. Part of being a CEO of a firm our size is having quality risk management. And when we looked at it, Mike and Ashley, we couldn't do it ourselves. Even though we got really talented people, we couldn't look at every opportunity and do it justice or find the holes in it. So we teamed up with Case, and we use their services and have been very pleased with them. It gives our advisors a broad range of opportunities, but it also puts in educational modules for them so that they're getting educated and make sure they're trained properly. So that's been an exciting advancement in the last 3 years for us.
Really cool. And outside of, maybe artificial intelligence, do you see any other sectors that have maybe been ignored, in the market? I even read today, I believe it was the NASDAQ hit, an all-time high. Are there any sectors or, ETFs or, anything particular that you see foreign stocks, anything like that on the horizon that, piques
Well,
your guys'.
international is undervalued right now, right? In the international market. So I think there's opportunities there. Regarding AI, I think it's a phenomenal tool, but it's how it can be implemented. I know there's advisors running out and doing their client notes with AI and all of that. I think, again, that you got to work with your compliance team, your consultants if you're an independent firm, and make sure you've got a right path on how you implement some of this technology. Investment wise, I mean, it's going to be interesting what we're going to see with interest rates. Some of our researchers are telling us that we're going to get 3 cuts still. Well, it's April, so it's going to be real interesting how these cuts are going to come down if we're going to hit 3 this year. So it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to have good markets. I think we've got, as long as there isn't a major issue going into the political campaign, history will tell us that during a major election years that the markets usually do well. And even though the politics, that whole scene is an absolute mess, whatever side of the aisle you're on, I think that the markets are going to hold up really strong. There's still a lot of growth in the United States, and obviously the world abound. There's a lot of opportunity.
So speaking of what you're talking about, interest rate cuts, as we've seen in the last just 2 days, the CPI and the PPI data came out. I just, being a past, mortgage-backed security guy, I was taking a look at the 10-year today, crossed 4.5 again. Yesterday, I believe. We hit almost 5% several months back, and then went all the way down to, I believe it was 3.9. Where do you see, we've had lots of unprecedented events with large amounts of debt being taken out during the pandemic, interest rates soaring. What do you see in the future?
What I find interesting is that we've been so spoiled for so long with zero interest rates. I'm a little older than you, Mike and Ashley, but I bought my first house in the city of Detroit. My mortgage was 13% in the early 80s.
Yeah,
13% for mortgage. I'm doing the numbers with my dad, and I was like, I'm never going to pay this thing off. And he says interest rates will come down. They would, and they did. And I sold the house, and I did okay on it. It was a small little house, starter house. But I look at it now, and these, we've had zero interest rate for so long. We've gotten so spoiled. This environment historically isn't out of line. Yep. And they're still up, but everyone's shocked because now, we live by payments. So, payments for a new house. My daughter has a house already. My son is saving for one, and, he's crunching the numbers. He's a smart guy. And he's like, this is tough. And I said, no, it's not tough. It's normal. It's just, we've been in such an odd period for 10 years. I mean, I remember coming out of school and I saw one inverted yield curve, and now an inverted yield curve is happening. It seems like every other month. Yeah. And you just never saw that. So even though people, the younger folks are saying we're in historical time or, unprecedented times, this is really average if you look at it over a long, long period. And it hurts because we had it so good for so long. I wish I would have borrowed more money. I'm not a guy that borrows a lot of money. I live pretty well between my means. But when I look at it now, I wish I would have borrowed a hell of a lot more money, considering where things are now. But I know. I think I'm really optimistic. I'm optimistic. The national debt scares me. But Warren Buffett had a great saying. He could clear that up in an afternoon by everyone would lose their jobs, all the congressmen, if they didn't have a balanced budget. We've got the best economic engine in the world. And if we focus in on it and quit giving away money, we will be able to pay the debt down. And that's really important. And that's about the only, unless we get another 9/11 event or some tragedy, I see us having a nice run here for the next couple of years.
Yeah. I could tell you this, one of my biggest mistakes, it was, and thinking about it, I thought, I started selling all my rental properties and even my commercial real estate that I had probably through the years of 2021 to around beginning in 2023. Right. And I, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the smart one selling at the top of the market. Little I know, besides commercial going down, the real estate values have held. And, I had, 2.75% fixed rates on my rentals. Right. And I go, wow, that rental interest rate right now, And granted, I was capable of getting that low of an interest rate through, being a preferred client through Citi. But I go, wow, the values haven't gone down, but if I wanted to borrow on that same house, my payment would be $6,000 a month now, not $2,200, right?
Yeah, it's the new rentals has really put a squeeze on it. The people looking for that passive income through in rental properties. To your point, it's interesting.
Yeah. Do you think that commercial real estate has hit a bottom, or do you feel like there's another shoe to be dropped there?
I think it's based on the area, right? In Michigan, the city of Detroit's still on sale. It's a great community, and there's still bargains. But I'm speaking from Tampa here. The commercial property comes up for about 30 seconds and it's sold. Resident,
Really?
I mean, everybody from the northeast is coming down and snagging things up. I mean, it's like hotcakes still down here. Not as much as it was during COVID, but still, we're seeing prices come down a little bit. But the availability of having property up for a long time, it just doesn't last. It's gone quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I thank you. I appreciate everything you said there.
Yeah, exciting times ahead for sure. Before we conclude our conversation today, John, what advice would you offer to aspiring entrepreneurs and financial professionals who are eager to carve out their path in the industry?
Yeah, I think write down your goals, and I know everyone says to do that, but write down your goals, and be authentic to yourself. Be true to yourself on what your skills are. Be completely self-aware. Everybody in the financial service thinks that they're great at everything. This is a tough business, and it doesn't take any prisoners really. So if you write your goals down, you have self-awareness, get a good coach, get someone that can mentor you and help you go through that. Because, if you're by yourself in the room and you're giving yourself advice, it's very difficult to look at your shortcomings. And we all have them as individuals. And build your team with people that are fulfilling what you don't do well. I'm not a good operations guy, so I found Bill Best, who's an excellent operations guy. So, that changed the course of the trajectory of my firm. I think we all have those. So it's be self-aware, and then be goal oriented, and then put the pieces in place. And it's going to cost some sacrifice. You're going to shorten your income a couple of years investing back in your business. Make sure you're staying with your margins. Look at your margins. Look at your costs of client acquisition. All those things are important in building the dream.
Well, John, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us today and your insights. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. We learned a lot, and we're excited to see what's to come more for Regal Investments and Regal Holdings and all your subsidiaries.
Well, thank you for having me today and allowing me to represent all the great people that are affiliated with Regal. It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the What Matters podcast. Don't forget to subscribe